They look like a couple of dorks.
All my favorite films are in Japanese. I know what it means when you say RPG. You say I'm a dork, but that's okay. I'm gonna be your boss one. They finally let me on the football field, 'cause in marching band I play the glockenspiel. I know I'm a dork, but that's okay. I'm gonna be your boss one day.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Dork Out. This is Dork Out number 2. I'm here with all the Film Dorks, and we just got an awesome new intro video with our song, the Dork Anthem, which is brought to us by some awesome YouTube comedy musicians named Dave and Brian. We'll have their link in the info. They were super gracious in giving us permission to use that awesome song, and I really love it, and I hope everybody else does too.
Yeah, maybe someday we'll have them on the podcast.
Yeah, that would be cool. But in the meantime, I'm Tom.
I'm Nick.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Lucas.
I'm Bridget.
Hi.
Yay!
So this coming Thursday, February 4th, we're going to be doing another podcast about time travel and romance films, or romantic time travel films.
Yeah.
So on this week's Dork Out, one of the many things that stand out about time travel is the way that they visually represent the act of traveling time, and we've gone through and separated that into 5 different subcategories. We have cryogenic time travel, which there's not too many of those, but that's like your Idiocracy or your
Futurama.
Demolition Man type.
I didn't even think about Idiocracy
Futurama
as a time travel movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he starts out in the present, and then he gets frozen for 500 years, and then he's the smartest man alive. But then we move on to time manipulation, which is like not where they have a time machine per se, but like Planet of the Apes, Interstellar, Inception, and Tenet all kind of fall into this category where they're traveling because they're going faster than light, or they're going through a wormhole or something weird.
I watched the new one that fits in that category, The Wave, with Justin Long and Donald Faison.
Right on. And an old classic, The Flight of the Navigator, actually uses that technique as well. But then we move on to time loops, which there's a lot more of these movies these days. It kind of started out with Groundhog Day. But then we also have like Edge of Tomorrow, Palm Springs recently, Happy Death Day, Source Code. There's probably more.
There's that show Russian Doll.
Russian Doll was cool. That was one that was actually a good. A lot of these that we mentioned are really good. It's like such a hackneyed trope at this point, yet they keep finding new ways to make it creative. But Edge of Tomorrow, if you haven't seen it, see that movie. That is such a great, underrated action film.
I remember when that came out and that trailer dropped, and I was like, this looks fucking terrible. Like,
and if you're wondering what movie we're talking about, it's a lot of times you'll see the tagline of that movie with bigger print than the actual title, which was Live, Die, Repeat.
Because it was supposed to be the original title.
That is the title, it's an alternate title, but yeah. And I remember that coming out going, this looks so bad. And then I was blown. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Like Nick, I thought it looked like the dumbest idea. I was like, Tom Cruise, I'm so sick of him. And I had like 5 whiskeys on a plane, and I watched that, and I was like freaking out. Loved it so much. I was freaking out on the plane. Anyway.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It is a great modern.
So wait, how did they, so this is a good way to start into the visualization of it. In that one, it was just like, they get killed and then they just jump, and then occasionally they would show like flashes, right, of like what the planet mind, whatever.
Well, he started having premonitions, or he was like tying into the other like quantum critters that were running around.
But mostly it was done through like quick cutting, editing. As soon as his life was over, he was dead. It would flash back to him waking up the same way.
He'd wake up. Yeah.
Right. Which is he just wakes up the next day, no matter what happens. He could die. He could go to sleep. He could be traveling around the world. He just wakes up the next day at 6 a.m.
So in a way, most of these time loops are like under the like visually basic, like subgenre in a way. Most of them.
I mean, almost all of them I can think of. Groundhog Day, Palm Springs. I mean, there was nothing.
Yeah, they cut back to the same shot each time.
I don't know if that ends up being like, hey, we have some budget constraints here, so let's just time loop this as opposed to time travel it. I don't know, but you're right.
Well, there's a lot of debate about what, if you were to time travel, like what would it actually look like?
Yeah, from the perspective of the person, maybe it would just be like popping in.
Since nobody really knows, it's creative license. You can make it up however you want. So visually basic time travel is the one that we see probably the most, but that's probably because it's there's a couple reasons. It's cheaper, it's quicker, and also it allows for more like character-based stories. They don't spend a lot of time with like technical mumbo jumbo,
sciencey.
Yeah, but like 12 Monkeys and La Jetée, are fucking amazing time travel films, and they have virtually no effects involved.
I mean, lots of good set design.
Safety Not Guaranteed.
Oh,
Deja Vu.
I want to say about Safety Not Guaranteed. I've seen that movie, and I forgot I saw that movie because I forgot it was a time travel movie until you guys kept saying, "Oh, it's not until the way end." And so I was looking up. I'm like, what are they talking about? So I watched that scene at the end, and I was like, oh, I have seen this movie. I think I remember liking this movie, and fuck, I guess it was a time travel movie. Anyway,
it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite Aubrey Plaza roles too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid movie. I just forgot.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it didn't blow me away. It has that very Little Miss Sunshine indie vibe. I mean, if you got a Duplass brothers in your film, there's no way you're getting around an indie vibe.
No, and they're also not going to drop big budget on a Duplass. Let's be real.
Right. I was just going to say, like, when it comes to like visual specs, especially for time travel films, like a lot of times, like the idea of the time machine, like it's always focused on like one set object, in a lot of films. So like in Back to the Future, it's like the car. I just keep thinking of Hot Tub Time Machine. It's the hot tub.
Right.
Or like, Austin Powers. It's like that big transport thing that they step through with like the colors like going around in the middle. And I just think that's like kind of interesting, like that type of like it's always focused on like an object.
Yeah, Back to the Future is the DeLorean that busts through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Austin Powers thing was a throwback to a 60s TV show. I think it was called The Time Tunnel or something like that. And that was one of the earliest sort of visual representations of it. But it was also just because it was a really easy set piece, this big rotating MacGuffin thing.
The rotating MacGuffin.
I mean, I think my favorite one of all of them that visually is the most, as a kid, was the most impressive was Terminator. I mean, that was the one that had the most presence, like the sphere that comes, and then they like, you see like the naked dudes peel themselves off of the floor. I mean, it was like, it definitely left a mark. We'll say that.
Yeah, and in the first one, they used it really well in a way to sort of subconsciously tell you who was the good guy and who was like the sort of underdog in this story, because when Schwarzenegger arrives, he just sort of shows up and he's walking and he's ready to kill.
Yeah, his like.
But then when Kyle
Reese
shows up, he's 15 feet in the air because they don't have the same like calculating smarts that the computer did. And he just drops to the pavement all smoking and writhing in pain. Immediately what's going on in that movie. It's so brilliant.
And they had all like the electricity effects. I mean, it's really well done.
Yeah, and the bubble and smoke and stuff like that. Yeah, the electricity a lot of them have a very distinct sound effect.
Mm-hmm.
Or sound build within that sequence that certainly amplifies the visual effect.
I mean, but that's James Cameron. You know, he's like a visual effects master, so it's no surprise.
Yeah, and it was very basic effects. It starts off with a little bit of fog and wind blowing, and the litter starts getting kicked up, and then you have that the static electricity effect, and then just lighting cues on, off, flash on, off, and
super effective.
And its simplicity. Yes.
But as they go on, and as the Terminator movies get dumber, you'll see that they throw more CGI at the whole time travel thing,
and they get dumber.
And by the way, if you want to listen to us sing the praises of the first few two Terminators, and then just slay the rest of them, you can go back and watch some of the old podcasts that
in the time travel series, because we do cover that franchise. We covered a few franchises. Back to the Future.
Bill and Ted is another one that we've covered, and it's one of my favorite visual representations of time travel.
Agreed. I think that's one of the strongest.
They call it the circuits of time, I think.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a like it's a phone booth, so they have phone circuits or whatever. But I thought it was a really good visual representation of kind of like the multiverse theory, where you're traveling down like a tunnel of time ostensibly, and it splits and forks off in all these different variables that hypothetically speaking there would be infinite of.
Yeah, but for
infinite
a film
possibilities.
For a film that's like a comedy, they have some of the best visualizations of time travel, and they didn't even have a huge budget. I mean, it's really impressive what they were able to do with that as well.
And I think the phone booth might have been a little wink and a nod to Doctor Who.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, originally it wasn't a phone booth. I mean, we talk about that in the Bill and Ted's podcast.
Which you should also go back and watch.
It was a van.
Yeah.
There's a van in the original script.
And then they were worried about the DeLorean because Back to the Future.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, as far as time machines go, the DeLorean was originally gonna be a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. And they were worried that too many kids are gonna get stuck in it, right? We talked about that in the episode. Anyway. All right. Whew.
Yeah.
And the Terminator originally was going to be a boot, but they didn't think it would work.
One of my personal favorites is Time Cop. As far as visuals go, they blend two things. They blend a practical effect and a CGI thing, because they have like that crazy rocket sled that flies at the wall, but then it poops through time right before it hits the wall, and then of course somebody's gonna splatter, because of that thing.
I feel like they should have just used John or whatever his name,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah. Just when he does the splits, he travels through time.
Didn't you see Time Cop 4? Is that what happens?
Yeah, right. But then they have the other sort of hilariously iconic early use of CGI in that movie, when the bad guy breaks the forbidden time rule and touches his past self, and they turn into that disgusting time blob thing.
Tom,
can
I ask you this though?
They just had so much fun with that shit.
Can I ask you this though? How could we do an episode on Time Cop? Where can we fit that into our time travel movies? Is that under ridiculous?
It might need its own
karate time travel. It'll be martial arts time travel movies.
Yeah, right.
Can we give some examples of these time travel romance? Because
Peggy Sue got married.
The Time Traveler's Wife, great movie.
Have you read the book, Bridget?
No.
Okay.
I've not read the book.
Right.
The Lake House with Sandra Bullock and what's his face? Oh my God, what's his name? Yes. Well, these like that sort of thing. I don't know what that was.
Those are two we had as potential movies for this week.
Interstellar.
Is Notebook a time travel type device?
No. I'm not going to consider that one because I just don't think we should consider Alzheimer's time traveling. Is all I'm going to say.
Well,
Palm
Springs
Springs
is in
is
another
a
one.
romantic time loop movie.
Yes, but no. We're talking. It's time loops, which I think is a subgenre. So if you want to talk about time loops. Fine. We're gonna have to do a whole episode on time loops, which we should do.
Don't worry, we'll be arguing next weekend.
Yeah,
and then
next Thursday.
About time. Rachel McAdams and Donald Gleason, and he travels back to keep trying to win her over. And then Amazon Prime is actually coming out with a new one. It's a time loop, the map of tiny little perfect things, and it's also going to be a time loop scenario.
It's the one with
Somewhere in Time.
Oh, and Somewhere in Time, which I will be reviewing because I haven't seen it since I was like 12 years old.
Yeah, me too. But there's a lot of them. Like I'm going to talk about Mr. Nobody next week.
Wow.
I'm going to have to watch it just so I can agree or disagree if it's a time travel movie.
Oh, Mr. Nobody.
I told Nick you could do Hot Tub Time Machine.
What are you talking about?
I tried to give you an out. I was like, you could do Hot Tub Time Machine because it is a time travel movie, and the most important part of that story is he's got to get laid and have a kid.
Yeah, you know,
right?
But it falls into the time circuit sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, but Back to the Future does the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. And also Terminator, the whole fucking point of the story is so he can have a kid. He can fall in love, get laid, have a kid.
Save humanity.
You could essentially have used Terminator, but we already covered it. So,
you know what? Also, we're just sitting here thinking of it. You know what's weird about a lot of kids in animated movies do this when they get into like the sequels and the third and fourth installments of films, they always add this time travel element. I'm just like off the top of my head, I'm thinking like the third Cinderella remake went back in time, the fourth Shrek went back in time, the Santa Claus 3,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 back in time.
Back in time. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, wait, what's
You're right. That's weird.
You're right. When they run out of ideas, they go back in time.
Speaking of which,
travel.
how many Avengers sequels have time travel in them now?
Endgame, yeah, you're right. That was
when you think about it, is there probably just in like a writers, like the producers and are in with the writers and they're just like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, I don't know, man. What are we gonna we've really run out of all ideas. Let's just make it time travel.
Yep, exactly. They run out of ideas.
Because you can revisit old storylines, so it's like you don't even need to write new ones. You go back to the original idea. That's what all these movies like when they get into like the sequels and stuff like that.
Well, that's what Lost did. If you guys have ever watched Lost, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna jump back and forth in time." The story was so innovative the first few seasons. Then they were like, "Maybe we'll just go back in time because we ran out of ideas." Cool,
right?
Let's keep this.
Let's go back in time and find some ideas.
Exactly.
So next Thursday, we are going to be going live with our podcast at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can see us live on Facebook, Twitter, and then we're on Spotify and YouTube at Screen Radar Presents Film Dorks, and also Apple Music. Was that the newest?
We're up on Apple Podcast. On Apple Podcasts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Apple Podcast. And then also make sure to give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find us at Screen Radar.
And don't forget Letterboxd.
We are now on Letterboxd.
We'd love to hear what movies you want us to talk about, or what is your favorite romance time travel movie. We listed a lot. So if you hit us up ahead of time, we'll definitely give you a shout out on the podcast next week. And watch and comment.
Or if you catch us live, you can hop on a chat and we'll do our best to respond live.
Yeah,
for sure.
Hell, we might even send you the link and pull you on. You never
interact with us, man.
I know I'm a dork, but that's